Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of el Internet, formerly known as ARPANET, created by whom? Again, we got to keep remembering this. We the people, we created all this stuff. And you know what? Somehow we have allowed others, a very select few, to take it all over, to control it all. Something that we have to get the impetus to mitigate. And that's what we're here for. We learn how to mitigate that. Anyway, without any further ado, let's move it over to the geniuses in the studio. We are talking about, of course, Jacques Van Bebbe and La Doña Mayana. Good morning, Mayana. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, and good morning to the people.
Well, good morning, Maya.
Good morning, Jack.
How is it going today, Egberto?
You know, actually, let me tell you, it's going great. And let me tell you a quick little 10-second story. Last night, I moderated a panel of judges, Harris County judges. And I couldn't have been more excited because finally these judges have been under attack year after year with lies and misinformation, and they can't really defend themselves as they should. But what they did is they found a way how to come out into the public and give information. And of course, we need to take that information and blast the lies, things that they can't do for themselves. So I was very happy with the discussion that we had with the judges last night.
Is that something that's going to be on the show today?
I'm not going to play it because it's too long, but I have it on my Substack. So anybody who goes to egberto.substack.com or politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, it's right there for them to see.
I'll definitely check that out. Thank you.
For sure.
Anyway.
Okay, here we go. In today's edition of Politics Done Right, Egberto Willies dives into two urgent front lines of American political and economic crisis. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez exposes how the GOP's sabotage of the One Big Beautiful Bill and their push toward a government shutdown will devastate the very communities they claim to represent: rural America, working families, and the uninsured. Meanwhile, Senator Bernie Sanders warns that big tech oligarchs driven by unchecked greed are poised to use artificial intelligence as a tool to erase nearly 100 million U.S. jobs unless workers and lawmakers take decisive action. Together, these stories paint a vivid picture of power, greed, and the urgent need for a new economic contract that prioritizes people over profit. Wonderful. Wonderful headlines.
Yeah, well, thank you, my brother, and thank you for that. Mayana, before I get started, do you have anything you'd like to add before we move on?
I'm just mainly thinking about just the state that we're in, and I'm just really thinking about how intense it is right now. And I don't know if people are picking up on it, but just the fact that this November and next November, how important it is that, you know, the dynamics with Democrat and Republican, or how more Democrats need to be in power, because I do feel like this is sort of the last chance. It's almost as if, you know, there's a coup going on. And it's just, I just want to press how important it is for people to really get involved and to spread the word.
One of the reasons, exactly. One of the reasons I like to get out there is because, you stay behind a mic and you write a whole lot. And if you are not out there really getting people's perspective, you don't get a chance to see where folks really are. I try to get out there in front of rallies. I try to get out there in front of panels, etc., so that you can see where the thought process is. And there's something that happened yesterday. I was speaking to one of the members of HAD, and she said, I am noticing that too many people are starting to look and feel defeated. And it is something that I think going around I've seen as well. But you have also heard me talk about how the women are holding things up with all these rallies and not giving up, etc. And I told her that is a spirit that we have to get into all Americans, because when you said coup, we are going through in your face, open eye coup in this country right now. And we're doing it in a manner with the consent of Congress and the appeasement of a Supreme Court. Okay? Did you want to say something?
No, I'm just saying absolutely, to the point where the Supreme Court, after they gave away the ability to do whatever you want, I don't know how you stop that. The only recourse we have will be the votes coming in, and the push to silence the voters are what we need to push against. It's the only power we have. And yes, I'm going to rallies as well. I was telling Jack, I'm going to go to the next rally as well. That's
October 18th. Absolutely.
October the 18th.
Absolutely. Now, let me just say one other thing, right? Because I hope people understand. I taped the entire. Listen to me, aging myself. I recorded the interview, the press conference that Governor J.B. Pritzker had yesterday, because he's suing the Trump administration for bringing in the military into Chicago. You hear Trump actively lie on TV and say things like Portland is burning, DC was burning, and you hear just a little bit of pushback from our mainstream media. Let me give an example in how this stuff should be working. I am not in Portland. You are not in Portland. Jack is not in Portland. So when the president, the leader of our country, goes out and say a particular city is burning, and the Fourth Estate, the mainstream media, doesn't go out with a helicopter and fly over Portland and broadcast over Portland, this is what Portland looks like, folks. And you will see a vast extent of beauty, a vast extent of traffic, a vast extent of people walking to work, biking to work, canoeing in the Columbia River. That can be shown.
But that's why I think that's what's the problem, is that the media isn't working against it, or they don't have agency, I guess, because now they're pretty much being taken over, and that's how serious it is. But they can't. It's like they're not able to fight back. I'm just saying we are the recourse. Like this.
What's interesting, Mayana, is let's look at a station like MSNBC. They have been hitting the president fairly hard, more so than CNN, which is probably going to be taken over by another Trump ally. CBS, which has already been taken over by a Trump ally. Fox News is already owned by a Trump ally. So there are two things that are important here. The one station that still has agency that you talk about doesn't have the forethought to do something that they have the ability to do now. And that is to fly over Portland, fly over Chicago, fly over DC, and just let people see, no, these places are not burning. If you have a block on fire, maybe you got a block on fire. Not true, but and let the people know that. But when you have the people that listen to Fox News, and Fox News is playing different types of videos from 5 years ago, when a city block where the federal buildings were is where we had the riots, where we had the protests in the front of a park. I had a friend, okay, part of our network. At that time, it was the Coffee Party Network. He was reporting from Portland. And what we saw even on mainstream media was the cameras concentrated on the barricades in front of the courthouse and the park filled with tents of protesters, etc. And that was what people saw Portland looked like. While 2 blocks on all sides of the park and of that building, it was business as usual. All the way into the Columbia River, all the way into all these other places, it was, living as usual. So people in Portland here, Portland is burning. Tourists here, Portland is burning. But nobody sees what they're talking about. And our media is failing. One of the reasons we talk about how important this here is going to be, pitch, even though we're not in fund drive yet. But one of the reasons we need to be funded, all, not just KPFT, but all independent media, by the people who the mainstream media is leaving uneducated about what's going on and what our government is not doing about, is because you are not seeing the truth. We can complain about the military is in DC, but the president is justifying it by saying it's under attack and finding a few people to say, "Oh, I'm glad that the feds are here because now the crime rate is down," which the crime rate has been going down all along. And the president wants to come out and say, "I'm taking credit because it's going down because I put the military." No, it's going down because we're working on policies that make crime less effective. Crime is there because of socioeconomic reasons. You solve the socioeconomic problems, and except for the psychopaths, you solve the crime problem. And there are all these issues, but that slow decline, that in your face, in front of you coup that is occurring, the only thing to mitigate that, first of all, is volumes of people. And I'm not only talking about volumes of people at the, let's say, October 18th protests. I'm talking about volumes of people going out to vote. Even what the president wants to do is put the military in high democratic areas so that people are fearful to go out there and vote. And if you limit the vote, the people that are never going to be fearful to vote are MAGA hats wearing people. I'm going to go buy me a MAGA hat because I have some stuff that I want to do under the name of MAGA as a test. But it's so important for us to go out there and do our thing. But anyway, let me go ahead and get started with what we want to talk about, unless Mayana and Jack have something else they want to add.
We're good. We're excited to get into the show.
All right. Anyway, folks, let's get busy. Look, right now, we're in the middle of a shutdown. And in this shutdown, the reason that we're having this shutdown is because at this point in time, Democrats are holding back to, I'm going to use the word coerce, Republicans into reversing what they've allowed to happen. And that is for subsidies to expire in December. Subsidies for 24 million Americans who are paying their health care on the exchanges. For all of those people who are not empathetic to that cause, America is a country of 300 and something million people. A large percentage get their insurance, albeit bad insurance, from their employer. Another set go ahead and they go directly to the private brokers to buy their insurance. And then a big chunk, 24 million, those are people who work for themselves, have their small businesses with a small number of employees who get their insurance. Many of them not realize that insurance that they're getting comes from the exchange. That exchange collects a whole lot of money from the government in the form of subsidies to make these insurances affordable for Americans. That's what was called the Affordable Care Act. I want to digress for a second. The Affordable Care Act should have been done much better. We should have had Medicare for all. We should have eliminated private insurance, but we didn't do that. The best we could do, and this was not the fault of Republicans, this was the fault of neoliberal Democrats, that we only got ACA, Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, but it was still orders of magnitude better than what we had before. And those are the subsidies that McCain saved before he died, when he gave that famous one vote thumbs down. And McCain lived in infamy with Republicans and lived in my heart with a lot of love. John McCain. He saved it the first time around. The second time, it couldn't be saved, again, because we had folks that care nothing about you. And by the way, when I say you, these Republicans don't care anything about you. Specifically, they care little about MAGA. Because most of the people that are taking advantage of the Affordable Care Act, they are, in fact, MAGA. And a lot of them don't know it. If you are in Kentucky, it's not called the Affordable Care Act or per se Obamacare. They know it as Connect. It was funny because there were times that reporters would go out and say, "What do you think about Obamacare? I hate it. What do you think about the Affordable Care Act? I hate it. Do you like Connect? Oh, that thing is great. I hadn't had insurance for 20 years. And then we got Connect," which is a Affordable Care Act, the name they gave the Affordable Care Act in Kentucky. And they love it. That is what education would do, or the lack thereof allows. So most of these guys that are out there, they don't know that what they're getting for their health care is actually based on the Affordable Care Act. But even further, even those not on the Affordable Care Act, the reason they can afford the price of the insurance that they currently have is the influx of government money, our tax dollars, that pays for the subsidies in the Affordable Care Act, that allows other insurances to be less expensive. Because if you don't have that influx of government dollars, it's a big pool, the same big pool. I mean, you may call it Cigna, but part of Cigna's money is coming through the Affordable Care Act, which goes into the big pool. And that big pool, in order to pay off those big rich CEOs, is funded partly by the Affordable Care Act, which allows your private insurance, your employer insurance, to be less expensive. So there's no rugged individualism here. The rugged individualism of these others are just hidden from you, but it's right there. So if the fight that Democrats are fighting right now for subsidies is not won some way or the other, it's not just the 24 million Americans that will have their insurances go up by 75% to 300%. That's not the only people that are going to feel the pain. If you are hearing my voice and you have health care from your employer, if you have health care from a private insurance company, wherever you have health care, that money that the government is not giving to those corporations is going to come out of somewhere. And that somewhere is your pocket, all to give trillions of dollars in subsidies to wealthy people. That is what we're having. It's a transfer of wealth. And these things are done in an ingenious manner to hide it from you. And you just see your bills going up. Your prices in the grocery store going up. It's not the farmers that are making the money. It's that middle person. So therefore, how could Republicans do that to their own? How could the MAGA base do that to their own? I want to play Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a discussion that she had. We're having some comm problems. I want to see if I can play it. If I can't play it, I'll tell you exactly what it is that she said. So let's go ahead and try it. And if it works, it works.
And I said, hey, man, there's no cameras around here. I just want to understand. Like, I pulled a Republican aside on the floor. And I said, hey, man, there's no cameras around here. I just want to understand. Like, I'm not here to put you on blast in front of a camera. Just person to person. I genuinely want to understand, because people think that trying to understand another person means that you agree with them or that you're being soft on them. And it's a huge problem in this day and age, because that mentality really prevents people from being able to connect and persuade. But I pulled this guy aside and I said, hey, man, like, I know that you represent a couple of rural hospitals, and this bill is going to devastate rural hospitals. I just want to know from your perspective, are you worried about that? What are you thinking about with your hospitals and your people? Because a lot of people don't know, like a ton of ACA recipients are in red states. A lot of Medicaid recipients are in red states. These are like Trump voters that are almost disproportionately, in many circumstances, being negatively affected. And so I said, like, walk me through how you see this. And he was like, yeah, I just don't believe it. He's like, I know that you guys need to make a big deal out of this to like score political points, but I just don't believe it. And I'm kind of sitting here like, this data shows that this bill is going to devastate a lot of people. But a lot of these folks just like don't believe that data. You know, there was one hospital in one of these districts. I was like, yeah, we might have to close. And they are now on their back foot. Like, they thought this was just a Democratic talking point. And now that their own people are being affected and their own hospitals are warning them, they are now kind of low-key panicking.
They are low-key panicking, but they still can't say anything because the fewer, they are scared to upset the fewer. They're fewer. So in a bit here, what she's saying, again, is that many of these Republicans genuinely believe what their leadership is telling them. Hey, this is really not going to affect you guys. This is really just the things that the Democrats have to do to raise hell. No. The example in Virginia was the start since the bill was passed of hospitals closing in Virginia, rural Virginia, with the stated reason as this is because of the cuts that Donald Trump and his big, beautiful bill has caused. And the reason they continue to pass this are two. One, they don't believe that Democrats are telling the truth, even though the data is there. It's not Democratic data. It is data. It's telling the truth. So a lot of these Republican Congress people that you guys put out there are voting to screw you. Some of them are doing it knowingly. But as AOC pointed out there are some of them that honestly think it's just a partisan thing and you're not going to be hurt. And it's not true. Again, it's not like we have elected the smartest cats to represent us all of the times. After all, we have somebody like Dan Crenshaw representing me in District 2. You know, I spoke to Dan Crenshaw a couple of times, mano a mano, hand to hand. He's just a mouthpiece. He's just a parrot. Repeat things. Repeat things. So that is where we are. So we have to actually be informing our constituents civilly, respectfully, with the things that we learn, the truths that we learn. But this is going to have to be a grassroots thing, because we've elected either evil or dumb folks on the right. Again, notice what I said. just one or the other, evil or dumb. If they know what's going on and they continue to do it, they're evil. If they're just ignorant, that's just what they are, ignorant. And it's upon you to do something about it. So I hope those of you who hear people complaining about the shutdown, etc., let them complain, but educate them. Let them know that what these guys are fighting for this time is noble. And it's not only for the 24 million people that are going to either lose their insurance or lose their personal economy. It's also for you, because absent those subsidies, everybody's insurance goes up, because that pool of money that was going into these private insurance companies are pools of money now going into the pockets of rich people. And those private insurance companies are going to make that money up somewhere else. And guess who always foot the bill? You do. You do. Before I go to tag, I want to go ahead and tell all our peeps, welcome aboard. That is Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia. Lita Bearcat from Austin, Texas. Jelaine Comardo says, I totally agree with so many people not wanting to fight for themselves or anyone else. Had someone tell me they were afraid of bodily harm if they say anything. Let me tell you something, folks. First of all, the bodily harm is likely to not occur. I mean, very few people are going to have any kind of bodily harm when they are fighting for their rights. We also have to remember those people in the National Guard, except for the thugs and ICE, etc. They are, in fact, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, and all of that. So, I mean, a lot has to happen before you have a state go all wrong. So they want you to be afraid. They want you to be scared. Because if you are scared, but what you want them to be is not to scare you. You want them to be scared of you. And you know how they become scared of you? When there are a lot of you and a few of them. When it comes to the wealthy, there's a lot of us and very few of them. Their overperformance is something we are ceding to them. And it's something we must stop. Glenn Ryan says something. Sometimes the only way to learn is to suffer. We have a very misinformed electorate, so let it blow up and maybe we get folks mad enough to vote for their interests. The depression plus pressure from the real left pushed FDR to the left. We may need something similar to get these morons. Well, I understand where you're coming from, but if we can do it without having to go through that catharsis, my brother Glenn, I am all for that. Deborah J. out of Fairfax, Virginia is with us. John A., thank you for being here with us, my brother. Deborah J., Mary B., Rosalind Gilliam, John A., LBW, or Professora, resident Professora says, because they're in their position to help themselves, not their constituents, they're self-servants, not public servants. Something that we have to put back into the system. Miss Barbara Fetante, Austin, Texas, thank you for being here. Beth Andrews, John Davis, Bell Neat, David Collins. If I forget to call your name, just put your city, state, and I will do so. Let's go to Brother Tag on line number 1. How are you doing this morning, Tag?
Good morning, Egberto. How about yourself?
I am doing fine, sir. Talk to me.
2 things real quickly. 340B hospital expansion. Have you heard about it?
No. Tell me about it.
Okay. Well, the other thing is Stephen Miller. So
yes.
Which one would you like to talk about first?
Talk about the hospital. That affects a lot of people.
In Michigan here, the Republican Congress has been fighting a 340B hospital expansion, which I don't know if they call it the same thing all over the country, but in Michigan, that's what it is. And I read the bill yesterday. They're talking about giving hospitals, especially the small hospitals, the ability to dispense medicine or drugs. and there's a big pushback because the Republicans don't want the hospitals to expand and start having mini pharmacies in the on-site. So they're saying, "Oh, going to cost too much," but the pharmacies are closing in a lot of places. You can't get to a pharmacy very easily, so they want the hospitals to start dispensing more of the medicine, and so that's a big issue here in Michigan. So, and I wanted to say something real quick about life via the dictates of Stephen Miller, because we all talk about Trump and his politics, but a lot of this is coming right from Stephen Miller. And if you don't pay attention to what that guy's saying, you don't know if there's a contingency of military showing up in your driveway to take you away. Because Stephen Miller's kind of the guy that's setting this policy about politics, is my opinion. So
no, that's actually not an opinion.
Yeah.
That's not an opinion. That's a statement of fact. Look, I don't know if you remember during the Bush administration, we actually called Cheney Bush's brain. Well, Miller is Trump's brain. Okay. And you're absolutely correct. Miller is an evil character. And remember, the president doesn't have a lot upstairs. He really does not have a lot upstairs. In fact, I don't think the president even knows what the big, beautiful bill is going to do to his own people, which could actually harm his own presidency. I don't think he has a clue. When Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries went to speak to him, he was blown away when they told him what it would do. And I don't think he still believes what they told him, because you had right there Kevin Johnson, Speaker Johnson saying, "Oh, no, it's just to get rid of sending money to the illegals and people that are sitting in their basement, twiddling their fingers and not working." So, the president doesn't have a whole lot of good advice. And already the president is not very smart. The president was born with a silver spoon in his mouth with the correct identity, so that capital begat capital. But that's for another day. Thank you, Tag. I got to go to Betty, and then I need to continue with some AI. Let's go to Betty. Come on in, Betty. How you doing, beautiful?
Okay, Egberto. Trump is for sale. Supreme Court is for sale. The rich are also for sale. They match off of each other to keep their money so they can spend it on what they want. They match off of us with new laws, new health care. We have to pay. They use our money to keep their money. So throw some water on your face. They are the biggest the moochers of all. Please walk away. Love y'all.
Love you, Betty. I love Betty always have her statements nice and written and ready to say her piece. Thank you, sis. Appreciate that. All right, I want to go into AI, but let me just go ahead and take, I think that may be John from Minneapolis. Let's just take John and then go into the AI stuff, which I want to do important. So hold the calls after John till I get through AI. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I wanted, yes, Stephen Miller is rather evil. There's a meme on Facebook with him shown as the original Dracula. Actually, he looked like the character. So he could probably play Nosferatu and, get by with. I think he should, once he's out of power, they ought to remake that and he star in it before he goes to jail.
I agree, John. Thank you very much for that, John. Thank you very much for John. I want to read something from John A. John A. says, Obamacare did a lot to help by mandating insurance that has real coverage for people who are sick. Private insurance back then had very low caps or max they would pay. Once you capped out, then you were left to Medicaid. If you were lucky to get Medicaid, difficult to get in Texas. But John A. nailed that Obamacare. In fact, when Obamacare came out, I made it my business to go ahead and promote the hell out of it, even though I had previously said absent the not Medicaid expansion, the public option, I wouldn't support it. But again, we have to work with what we have best at the given time. And he's correct. There are a lot of things Obamacare did. Make sure that women were treated like men. Pregnancy for women used to be considered a pre-existing condition. A whole lot of things that Obamacare cleaned up that the insurance companies couldn't do anymore. Anyway, I want to get into some AI here. Look, a lot of people fear AI. A lot of people think that AI is a bad thing. It's a job killer, etc. Is AI going to be a job killer? Yeah, AI is a job killer. Look, let me just tell you, on a personal note, I use AI to help manage quite a few things. AI isn't new at all. AI is not new. From the time we got robots, we were talking about AI. Look at what AI did to employment in the auto industry. You see, robots building cars. Every single robot that you see there was done by, replaced several human beings. Is it artificial intelligence? Hell yes. We just didn't have a fancy word to call it. We called it robotics, automation. But AI has been around for a very long time. But the growth of certain things, like the growth of cancer, is exponential. Let me explain. You have one cancer cell. The next iteration is each of those one cancer cells become two. So one cancer cell becomes two. Two cancer cells becomes 4. The next generation becomes 8. The next generation becomes 16. The next generation becomes 32. The next generation becomes 64. The next generation becomes 128. That's called exponential growth. Every iteration, the growth rate is much higher. That's the same thing with AI. You first got a machine that did the calculations for you. Remember those old calculators? They were all mechanical. Tick, tick. You could do a whole lot of computations faster by having a machine do it, mechanical. Then we invented something called the transistor. The transistor did the same thing these mechanical things for a mechanical calculator did. It just did it faster. And then we went from transistors to microchips, which simulated millions of transistors on a little thing, and we could do things a bit faster. Then we got the computers, which was a conglomerations of microchips that created the CPU, right? The CPU, the central processing unit. And then we got the software that know what to do. I mean, and all these things grew exponentially. So this fast-paced AI is something that happens in nature all of the times, exponential growth. And it's not hard at all to see that eventually this exponential growth, just like it got rid of workers in Michigan, would start getting rid of every kind of worker that it has. You no longer need to have these big, expensive call centers anymore. Because if you have a call center with a human being, every human being that joined that call center that gives you technical support has to learn about the subject they're giving you technical support in. Well, now we have AI databases that you build one time. You also have the AI database that listens to every phone call that's made to a call center so that they understand what kind of questions people ask, what kind of questions are answered successfully by the human beings that are hired and trained. And as the AI system, the database that's being built, learn about what's happening, that database gets built. And you know what's the difference between that database and a human being? That database never gets sick. It never gets ill or anything like that. So therefore, all that database has to do is mimic the things that it has learned from the human beings And then we don't need the human beings anymore, because when you call a call center now, most of the times you get an AI bot. And most of the times that AI bot is pretty damn good. Now you have ChatGPT, another AI bot. You have Represent. You have all these different bots that you can ask a question. And because they have learned how to answer these questions from everybody on the planet, they do a fairly good job of it. Try the free version of ChatGPT. Ask it anything. You get good answers. I use a paid version of ChatGPT because this is what I do, right? I have this is how I inform you, etc. I have to be able to. It's still not perfect. It makes mistakes, but so secretaries and engineers are getting replaced by a lot of these automation tools because it has learned from us. It has learned all these things that we do. And you take a look at the job you do every day. A lot of the jobs that you do every day are repetitious. You do the same thing every day. And so you can get that automated. It's called AI. AI is also going a step further. It's learning how to do things logically. In other words, it's learning how to also teach itself the same way you teach yourself. You learn how to answer certain calls, and you know that the tone of somebody's voice mean you have to deal with them differently. AI is now understands that as well. So yes, AI is likely to take a whole lot of jobs away. But is that a bad thing? It's only a bad thing in a capitalist society. Again, I want you guys to understand this well. It's only a problem in a capitalist society. The people who own capital, they pay for the engineers who are fomenting their own demise. They pay for the secretaries who are fomenting their own demise. Because under the context, the pretext of this economic system, you pay somebody for their labor, you pay somebody for their intellect, and that person doesn't owe you who had the capital to pay for that. So as an engineer, I build let's say a AI system that answers the phone for this company. They pay me one time and then I go home. I've used the knowledge that I learned from the internet, from how a lot of people answer questions and all these other things. And after that, they don't need me. They just need a maintenance structure to make sure the computers continue to work. When a chip goes bad, to replace the chip. Maybe any additional learning, because we've now taught AI how to teach itself. We just need a small amount of human intervention. And who makes all the capital? Who makes a profit from having a call center run by AI? The capitalist who invested his capital to buy human intellect, to buy human know-how. That capitalist is the person who makes all the spoils. The same applies for that. Remember, I talk about exponential growth. That is repeated over and over and over again. In a capitalist society where we say the person with capital risk their capital and they profit from the risk that they take. That's a lie, but that's for a bit later. They risk nothing, but that's the story you've been told. They risk their capital and the reward for that is the profit they make from the risk they took in AI. It's not true, but that's what they tell you. So we accept that AI is going to cost a lot of jobs. And lucky for the investor, lucky for the small amount of people that are still going to be needed, lucky for them. There are two missing points here. One, if you don't have an employed populace, then the products that all this AI is going to generate, the faster cars, the faster car, all the things that AI will generate, who's going to buy it if you don't have the money to buy it? People won't buy it. But don't think the billionaires haven't thought about that. They have. In the long run, they will support certain types of taxes to keep money in your pocket to keep the economy going. But that's not where I want to go quite yet. I want to go to where the type of economy that AI should be creating and that we should be demanding. We have given the power, the economic power with capitalism to the owners of capital. Doesn't matter how they got that capital. The West Texas landowner stole all that land. They have capital and they can invest in AI. So their stolen property invested in AI puts you out of a job. And that goes in every sector. The person who found oil on public lands and they're profiting from that oil on their public lands are investing in AI, and all those call center, all those data centers that take a whole lot of energy, etc. It's your money. It's what you created. You created your own demise. That's what a capitalist system does when it comes to the who benefits from the spoils. It isn't true that these guys risk anything. When they risk their money for their projects that are not successful, they get that money back, because for the projects that are successful, before they make a profit on the successful projects, our government, we the people, allow them to deduct their losses from the projects that fail. So anytime you hear we have this system because we want to generate innovation, because if they don't see a profit in innovation, they won't innovate. The capitalists don't innovate. The people with capital don't innovate. The engineer innovate. The teachers innovate because the teachers makes us. The other people innovate. They create. The capitalists just put their monies out there. And whenever they make a profit, they're rich. And whenever they lose money, they write it off. So what should AI looks like, and what kind of an economic system allows for AI to be the right thing? First of all, I support AI wholeheartedly. I want AI. I want those self-driving trucks. I want those self-driving Ubers. I want all of that. I want us to have so much leisure that we can have more time hugging our children, that we can have so much time hugging the people we love, that we can have so much time enjoying nature, that we can have most of our times on vacation. Why? Because we work towards it. From the inception of humanity that have socialized, as we came together socially, we have worked together to create things, to create tools. We created the hammer. We created the hatchet. We created the wheel. We created the machines that did all this work. We created it. Not the capitalists. We did. Then you got some smart aleck that created a system where they could profit with their capital on your work, on the engineer, on the lawyer, on the guy who sweep the streets, on the garbage collector. All of those things are being consumed into the AI database so that eventually it replaces the actual worker, right? And I'm saying, replace the worker, please. Replace the worker. I want that worker replaced by AI. But what I want, folks, is I want us to have the laws that says the following. Eventually, we'll get to a 10-hour work week. A 10-hour work week. And AI, which isn't the domain of the capitalists, the wealthy, it is our creation. It is your mind. Every time you make a call to a call center, you are training the AI system, the AI model. Every time you drive your car and get into an accident, you're training the AI model. Every time you lose your life from cancer, you're training the AI model. Every time you're cured from cancer, you're training the AI model. We are the inputs that creates AI. The capitalists pay some engineers to understand how to create the relational databases that allows AI to make the choices it makes, that many a times make better choices that we as human beings with a slower mind. In other words, the electrons in our minds, even though it's run in what's known a collective manner, in a network manner, it's arranged much better than a von Neumann type computer, but the computer still, because we can apply the massive amount of energy faster than our brain. But we created that. All of us created that, from the janitor right up to the engineer, right up to the doctor. We created the data set that AI uses to do its job, and we are not compensated. I want to kind of go on a little tangent, and I'm going to use Oprah as an example. Oprah is a billionaire. Oprah became a billionaire because she was able to project herself over radio and TV, over the internet. She brought into America's homes things that America liked about her and about the advice that she gives, about the touchy-feely friend that she became to millions of Americans. And that allowed her to reap a lot of money for herself and became a billionaire. And a lot of folks would say, well, she lifted herself up by her bootstrap. I'm using Oprah because Oprah started her life as a very poor person. And she used the capitalist system to get very wealthy. Okay? Now, nobody should envy. She played by the rules and she did everything right. But did she really earn the billions that she has? You know, just like in AI, the long narrative that I just gave you with AI, that engineer who created Marconi, who created how or talked about how to send electronic waves over the air, he never got wealthy from his creation, which has made Oprah rich. From the von Neumann computer system that allows her on the internet or allows the machines to work, none of them made billions, but absent their work, she wouldn't be a billionaire. She's a capitalist, but she wouldn't be a billionaire, right? We are all a collective. We are all interdependent on each other. And for us to say that the last person to use all the doings, all the makings, all the creations of all of us to be the ones profiting, that's a flawed, that's a failed economic system. Do I know what the economic system should look like so that it would actually be fair? Absolutely so. Can I build it? No, I need a lot of people more intelligent to build it. But what I do know is that the reason people are scared of AI is the reason people are scared of the government and all these other things is because of the indoctrination that's been in our heads for such a long time, to think that this economic system is God, to think that this economic system is what gave us our growth, etc. It's absolutely false. Inventions and creations have come from people from all over the world. And yes, capitalism can push invention, but it can also stunt invention. That's why we're still on oil. That is why we're still on these different things, because our economic system has prevented us from moving forward. And when they found an open door to make more and less of us, that's what they do. That's what they do. And so my thing to all of you, and I'm coming close to time here, is not to fear AI. It's to demand that we are all compensated from AI. All of us. And how are we compensated? The 10-hour work week. The 10-hour work week. Everybody still gets employed. And for those who don't have a job, basic income, because the AI model was created by all of us, from even the vagabond on the street had a part to do in the creation of the AI model. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to the studio. and then we'll close this baby out. Studio.
Well, if we were to evoke Vulcan logic, it would be the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
You bet your life on that. There's no doubt about that. Okay. Anything else, anybody, before I close this baby down?
Let's close it down.
All right. Look, folks, let me just say, I went on a long rant there, but Bernie Sanders wrote an article about AI yesterday about us losing 100 million jobs, right? And all I hear around us is the fear of AI. In other words, we are fearful of AI. I want us to be proactive on AI. I want us to be demanding of what we are going to do with AI. And anytime a billionaire tries to tell you this is what we created, Musk created nothing. And I mean nothing. These billionaires created nothing. They are parasites on top of the work we all as workers do. And you have to believe that in the core of your being. You have got to understand and know that in the core of your being. You are the creator of all that we do. It just happened to be forces and parasites who we have mostly given the rewards to in this country. And with that, I want to remind you that you can get the rest of the program at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can also write me directly if there's something you wanted to say about this subject or any other subject. Remember, you can reach me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. I love you all. We got to love each other. We got to move forward. That's the only thing that's going to save our butts. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a